Well, there's that old phrase, be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. And unlike certain people, and again, I really don't judge. You got to make money. You got to survive. And in the YouTube space, there is just fake personas. Like what I'm doing here is a performative performance, but there should be limits. And yeah, this guy keeps exceeding the limits. So it's just, you got to do it. You got to quote Freddy Krueger, you got to put down the big dog. So let me just get this shilling out of the way because this will get very sensitive very quickly. So I just want to prepare people. So breathe because it will get bad. So please give the other channels a chance. Please consider supporting the channel through whatever means. I will be putting some new perks soon. Be patient. So what is the thing? Well, like I said, breathe because this is gonna get bad, and we're not talking Solomon, right? I'm not talking this simple silly case. We're gonna get to something very, very alarming. So I'm gonna be nice to Serge, despite what people think, because it's a little bit too easy to reach for Solomon. So let me explain that. So the anti-Scientology scene, to put it mildly, has declined a lot, and it has had a huge influx of grifters. Probably one of the most bizarre case is Serge Gil. He's not Serge Delmar. His real name is Serge Gil. He's used his real name, by the way, so I'm not doing anything illegal or quote unethical. He's used his quote real name. Well, even that is a bit of a phony fraud. And listen, as frauds go, Serge is kind of a dime a dozen. But for whatever reason, and I'm not calling them anti-Scientologists because they're not. We're just going to call them fanaticists. Have leaped onto these weird phraseologies like children can consent, no more kids in Scientology, yada yada yada. I did a quote more philosophical version of this same argument, and actually was more about Nora. But I've had complaints like, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. These are not obscure videos. I think I'm perfectly clear, but apparently I got to keep it simple. So let's keep it simple. Can kids consent? Oh, yeah, they can. And how do you know this? Why not believe Serge? Why not believe his fantasies and weirdo? Oh, the children out there. Oh, the children out there. Well, get ready for it. You ask the question, we will answer it, but it's not a lovely answer. And apologies to people in Britain, Australia, France, and other countries because this is a little American centric, so this may be a little biased. But Google Eric Smith, and as they say, case closed. So this is YouTube, so I have to be very careful with details. But what happened? Well, essentially, Eric was a very young child. Let me be very blunt. He was a very young child. And apparently he was bullied. And for whatever reason, small kid, very young, he looked at this other kid, and there's no nice way of putting it, killed him. Now you might think, well, maybe it's an accident, maybe there's something with the parent. Nope. The only kind of factor that's really relevant is he was bullied. Apparently the bullying got so bad it really messed him up. And he just found this innocent kid and decided to just kill him. Now, to give some background with me, I grew up with the 80s and 90s. I honestly don't remember this. And this apparently was a tabloid case that got some notice. And again, I will be brutally honest. I did watch some of this stuff, right? I stayed away from it for the most part, but listen, if you did grow up in America in the 90s, you probably saw these things like Current Affairs, Inside Edition, these kind of tabloid shows. I gave it a chance, but I was like, this stuff is just too silly and ridiculous. So probably they covered it. And I do vaguely remember this case, but again, remember there were so many tabloid stories in the 90s. Tanya, the Menendez brothers, OJ. I'm going to do some more work on that because that case is being revived. I guess this one slipped through the cracks with good reason because it is so disturbing. So this very young kid killed another child, and the age of the other child is stunning. He was really young. I mean, really young, really small kid. There seemed to be no provocation. He just saw him, and this is not an ordinary killing. The killing was very brutal. like really brutal. Torture was involved. And I'll be honest, I hesitated doing this video because, listen, Serge is a fraud. We know that. You know it. I know it. It's just silly time with him. And yes, I'm sure he was victimized in Scientology, but this guy's not a good person. And he's definitely not telling the truth. Serge stayed in Scientology in his 20s and even into his 30s. The official record shows he left Scientology in 2015, and according to the church, he was pushed out. So this is a guy for over a decade stayed in Scientology. According to his own standard, if you're 18 and above, he doesn't care about you. Okay, well, you stayed in Scientology for over a decade. So he's just a fraud. But let's think about that. Let's answer that question. Kids cannot consent. No more kids in Scientology. No children can consent. No children. No. Sarge. Sarge is the light. He's the most beautiful angel. Oh my God, he's my Sarge. I'm not joking. Read the comments on his page. They are just complete fanatical morons. They just have this, no children can consent. No children, you're disgusting. No children, you think children can consent. Okay, let's be serious. Fine, children cannot consent. So what happened? Well, Eric did what he did. He killed the kid. Well, children can consent, so we're done. Did he do something evil? Yes. Did he kill someone? Yes. Can you charge him? No. No, you can't. In Surgeland, he didn't make a choice. Because children can consent. They can't make a choice. Oh my God, they can't consent. Don't you understand the movement? Children cannot consent. Okay, then somehow, miracle, this young victim is dead, but Eric, even though he did the killing, didn't consent. So he's not going to be charged with a crime. He goes free. He didn't do anything. I mean, he didn't even make a choice, apparently. So children can consent. But children can consent. I mean, maybe you want to say he's a young teenager. Maybe. I guess you could say, well, not like a child. He's an older child. Yeah, whatever phraseology, whatever category. I think most people say he's an underage. He's not an adult, right? So are we really saying only very young children can consent? I mean, it's just phraseologies. The fact is, Eric killed this young child. He was charged and he went to jail for decades. Now, I'm going to come off brutal here, but apparently the courts and the police and the parents involved made a decision saying, no, you can consent. You consented to doing something evil. And listen, this kid was studied and they didn't really find anything. No real psychological disorder, nothing biological, just a normal young kid who decided to kill another child. The only reason he might have been the bullying, but it could also be he just decided on a whim, I'm just going to kill you. That's it. Serious people have that dilemma of, listen, this is a serious subject, so it is understandable that our focus will be on, quote, child victims. But do some thinking, do some research. You know who victimizes children? Other children. When you look at who actually does these things in terms of child abuse, you'll be shocked to learn it's not often adults. It's not adults. It is sometimes children of the same age group or slightly older. It's alarming how young a child can be and do something evil. But it's got to wake up to reality. We see it all the time. You go to any public space, work, school, the military, anywhere, you can see it for yourself. Children at a very young age can do something evil. They can be very brutal. They can be very tyrannical. This is just normal experience. They just scream and moan and yell and demand and just scream, do this now. God, I want this now. They just grab things, right? We even have safety precautions, right? Children don't understand the power they have. Even very young children are aware they can manipulate their environment. And guess what? They will make a choice. And it's nice to think, well, Eric is an aberration, but we're still confronted with that question. Now, if Serge Del Mayo and his grifter morons and his fanatical idiots, fine. then Eric did nothing wrong. He should go free. In fact, he's what? An angel, apparently. Because no child can be evil. No child can make a choice to be evil. Children can consent. Children can consent. Don't you get the movement? Fine. Children cannot consent. They cannot make a free choice. They can't make any free choices. Fine. He didn't choose to kill anyone. So no one was killed. But we have this dead, innocent child. What are we going to do? Apparently nothing. If you take Serge seriously, but children cannot consent. Well, fine. I guess he goes free. That is the only logical implication of that. Meanwhile, back in reality, children can consent. Children can choose. It's not a good choice because some children do grow up in a really awful environment. That's not this kid. There's not even evidence that this is a particularly bad childhood. It's just he was bullied and he was just very young and he made a choice. He made a choice to do something evil. I've used examples like the Hitler Youth, and in the bigger video, I'll draw on other cases, but in a lot of ways, that's also weak tea. The fact is, Hitler is not always the bad guy here. Some of these children, and they were children, made a choice. They said, oh, what's this? It's the Nazi program. It's fascist militarism. You get to go on these little trips. You'll be indoctrinated and da-da-da. Some of these children knew what was happening. They're not stupid. They made a choice. They said, oh, okay, good. They made a choice to be evil. You got to grow up here. Evil does not discriminate. Black people can be evil. White people can be evil. Old people can be evil. Young people can be evil. Very young people can be very evil. As long as we have human choice, we're going to have evil. You cannot get out of that. The only solution would literally be a dictatorship. And not just any dictatorship. It would have to be the most extreme dictatorship to prevent human choice. And if that's your solution, I respect that. And if you really believe this phraseology, children can consent, so be it. But then you'd have to say, Eric goes free. And a serious person would say, okay, fine, well, it's very dangerous, but yes, he should go free. Children cannot consent. Eric goes free. Well, I respect that. I do respect that serious person, which is not Serge, by the way. I disagree. Unfortunately, I think this is a case, and it's not rare. Let's stop with this moronic myth making. Oh, they're all angels in the playground. Get them out of Scientology. They're only the playground. They should be free to run and play and to be angels. That is not the reality. The reality is that's why we have schools and education systems. Young children can potentially be very dangerous. They have a lot of power. They really do. Even at a young age, you can hurt other things. Animals, people, children. It's just inherent. When we have these powers, all we can hope is you educate a young child to be like, this is a lot of power you have, right? With your body, with your mind, with your language. You got to be real careful. And we got to be honest. Bad parents, bad education. But at the end of the day, the kid makes a choice. And it's a devastating reality that they will join gangs. They will commit criminal activities. And for the most part, it's petty, right? They'll steal something or they'll lie. It can get bad. It can get bad. So it's rare that it will go this far, but it does happen. And when we're confronted, we have to confront that question saying, it's nice to believe these moronic mythologies and phraseologies. Children can't consent. No more kids. Children can't consent. But what if it happens? What if a child kills another child? It's nice to say these things and be stupid, but then we're confronted. I think they made the right choice. It's just too dangerous. So yeah, he chose to do something evil. He did commit a crime. He got rightfully punished. And if Serge disagrees, well, I don't really care. I'd hate to be brutal, but anytime these morons say, children cannot consent, I'm going to have to tell you, no, children can consent. Eric consented to do something evil. Grow up. Young kids can be evil. They can be evil because they can consent. They can choose to be evil. Deal with it. Grow up. If you don't want to grow up and live in Serge's fairyland moronic fascist fantasies, that is you. I choose to be in reality. Sorry. Children can consent, and they can consent to doing evil. Grow up.